Good morning. Good morning. My name is Helen Smith, and I am your service leader today. My pronouns are she and her. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us, whether here with us in person or enjoying the service at home. We have a couple of announcements this morning. I'm going to ask Marie Lowry and Argo to make some announcements for us.
Good morning, Marie Laurie, Social Justice Committee. Tonight is Save the World again. We are making whistle kits again. We have a lot to talk about again. Tonight, though, I can lure you in, I hope, with there's a no folding night. We're just going to do stringing whistles and packing bags. So please join us at 7 if you can.
Hello, I am Argo Kramer. I am the Religious Education Coordinator here. I have two brief announcements about upcoming programs. One, UUCF is so happy to, after over 10 years, be offering Our Whole Lives once again. We are running the 7th through 9th grade program, and we are opening it to people beyond the congregation. So even if you have a friend, relative, family member with a child in the 7th through 9th grade range, Our Whole Lives prides itself on being developmentally appropriate, scientifically accurate, as well as radically LGBTQ plus inclusive. So let me know, contact me in person or shoot me an email if you're interested in participating. As well, we are also thrilled to, in collaboration with the Farmington Area Progressive Alliance, be starting up an LGBTQ youth art group called Create and Connect in September. Once again, this is open to folks beyond the congregation. I passed out like 20 flyers in downtown Farmington, so you might see it around. And if you know of any LGBTQ youth or allied youth who are art inclined, we'd be super happy to have them join us starting on September 18th. Thank you so much.
I also invite you to read the order of service to see some of the other upcoming events here. Please take a moment now to silence any digital devices that you may have and bring your attention to our time together.
Beautiful music, and good morning. I'm delighted to be with you all this morning. I'm the Reverend Eric Hausman, and as we sort of center our hearts for worship, we want to just emphasize that at the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington, every day, in every way, we bid you welcome. In this community of radical inclusion, we make space for what you believe, who you are, what you love, and who you love. Your whole self is welcome here. We don't need to partition and feel like, oh, it's Sunday, so I can only bring this one facade of my life to church. No, we're whole people, and we're whole together in community. And any visitors here this morning? One of my character flaws is I like to put people on the spot. So I know some people hate it, but welcome if you're new here in person, or if you're online and just happen to be tripping on this internet page and seeing us for the first time. Welcome to those online as well. I'd like to continue with opening words from Gary Kowalski, who is a minister who first introduced me to Unitarian Universalism, and I have a fondness for his words. He writes, "In this quiet hour, may our spirits be renewed. In this gathering of friends, may we be ready to extend ourselves to those in need, and with trust to receive the hand that is offered. In this community of ideals, may we remember the principles that guide us and reflect upon those things that give meaning to our lives, renewing our dedication to serve the highest that we know. In this time of worship, may our minds be open to new truth and our hearts be receptive to love as we give thanks for this life we are blessed to share."
Our chalice lighting reading this morning is in the words of Christine Robinson. "We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together." Please join us for our opening hymn, "Rise as You Are Willing and Able," for hymn number 188, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are."
We're going to do this in a round. So we'll sing it all together, and then this side of the room will sing with me, and then this side of the room, we have way more people on that side, we'll sing with Ellen. If anybody wants to come over here to sing the first part, balance it out a little bit, you're welcome to.
That's for last.
Thank you, Sarah. That made all the difference. Thank you.
Come, come, wherever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Here we go.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, come, whoever you are. Ours is no caravan of disbelieving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, you are. Wanderer, worship, whoever you are. Ours is no caravan of disbelieving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Good job, everyone.
Hello again. I am once again Argo Kramer. I am the Religious Education Coordinator here, and for the message for all ages today, we have a Wonder Box. If you are unfamiliar with the Wonder Box, it is a form of object-based learning where whatever mystery, very surprising and interesting item I have in here relates to the message of the sermon or to something we're talking about. Today, I think that some small individuals among us might like to see the objects I have in the Wonder Box up close and in person, and they might want to touch them with their hands. So, if anyone, and if you don't want to come up now, but then I pull it out and it looks pretty cool and you want to pick it up, then you can come up too. That's okay. But if you want to come sit, you can. Okay. So, I'm going to shake it around, and I will tell you, this might make a bigger noise than the Wonder Box usually makes when I shake it around. Okay, I'll step back. There's some stuff in there. What? There, yeah, it sounds like a bunch of stuff. Do you think it sounds like a lot of stuff or a little bit of stuff? A lot. A lot of stuff. Okay. Well, today, I'll pull stuff out one by one. I have these little figurines. Hard plastic. I have these little figurines. You can pass them around. Does anyone know what these are? These are my dad's, so thank you, Greg. Does anyone knows what these are? Oh, what did you say, Matt? These are There you go. Smart kid. These are D&D monsters. Can you pass one to our friend there? Here we go. We have enough to pass around. There you go. I also have a lot of dice in here. Ooh. You're right.
We're making a bulletin board.
We are making bulletin board today. But you are right. These are all of the things you need to play a game. And I think Matt was right when Matt said these are used to play usually what are called fantasy role-playing games, which are games where you play them mostly with your imagination. You sit at a table with your friends and you have someone who's called the game master, and they come up with a story in your head, and then it's kind of like a choose your own adventure book where you get to go through it and roll the dice, and then you can use these little figures to show what's happening if there's a fight or a battle. But in these games, you can do lots of things. You can do pretty much anything. A lot of people can use magic, and they can use magic to heal people. They can use magic to get in battles. They can use magic to do things humans can't. And to get this magic, some people get it naturally. It's like they were born with it. They woke up and they had magic just coursing through them. And you're right. And some people, they study for it. Some people they study religion for it, and they get their magic through a god or a deity. Right. We're one step ahead. And other people study books for a long time. They read and read and read, and maybe they go to a teacher or a tutor, and they teach them how to do it. You're right. And what about, Matt, what about the people that don't use magic? Yeah, and you can do a lot of stuff in this game beyond just magic. And there are ways in this game where if you got in a big battle with a dragon and your character died, there are also ways they can come back to life. Now, I'm going to teach you a couple of big words, okay? Some of our friends in the audience might know this, but I think our friends up here might not. I'm going to teach you a term called the suspension of disbelief. I told you it was a big one. The suspension of disbelief is when you are reading a book that has magic, or you are playing a game like this, and you make the decision to say, I'm gonna put away the part of my brain that says, that can't happen, that's not real, and I'm just gonna have fun with what we're doing. Like you guys are doing with those figures. We were just having fun. You say, this guy probably isn't real, but we can have fun with him anyway. And some of you may need this more than others to play these games, and some of you may not. So I have a question for you. and we're gonna vote on the answers, all right? I'm gonna need you to use your hands for this, so I'll take our little monsters. Thank you for the dragon, thank you for the owlbear, thank you for the plant. Thank you. I'll tell my dad they were very well appreciated. We picked the sturdiest ones out of the bin. Yes. So, all right. I have a question for you. So, if you are, we're going to talk about this idea, this suspension of disbelief. If you're playing a game, if you have to put away if one part of your brain is saying, this is not real, this could not happen in real life, if you have to really tell that part to go away, you're going to give me 3 fingers. If you have to only tell it to go away a little bit, you're going to give me 2 fingers. Or if you're like, I believe in this stuff, you're going to give me 1 finger, okay? So what about magic? Do you think kind of? You think, is there a part of your brain that says, there's no way that could ever happen in real life, ever at all? Or you say, you think one, definitely one, definitely could happen, absolutely real, okay? What about when someone, in the game we're talking about, Matt used the word cleric, where that's someone who studies and has a relationship with a deity, and that deity gives them powers. And maybe in real life they don't give them superpowers like they give them in Dungeons and Dragons, but maybe in real life there are people who study a deity and they feel like that gives them powers to go about their day-to-day life. How do you feel? Do you feel like you have to tell a part of your brain that says that could never, ever, ever happen? Or do you think that could happen? Or maybe it could happen, it depends. Okay. And what about life after death? So again, in our game, this might be reviving someone, or they come back as a ghost or a skeleton. But in real life, it might be something different. What do you think? Do you have to say, that could never happen, or that could absolutely happen, or maybe that could happen? I don't really know. In between. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys so much. If you have my dice, these are my dice. Could I have them back? Could I have them back, please? Thank you. All right. So now, thinking about that, we're going to think about our ability to believe in things we can't always see, or things that maybe we didn't used to believe in, but we believe in now. And we, the youth, are going to head downstairs to Adams Hall. Wait, pause. If you are sitting in a row with a rainbow arch and you would like to put it up, you can. We are also going to, Diana will play our children's recessional. The words will not be on the screen, so it's a memory test. If you don't know them, it's fine. If you do, sing loud.
Through the sharing of joys and sorrows, we make space every Sunday for authentic and vulnerable sharing, which helps us build this congregation into beloved community. You are invited to briefly share what's going on in your life, to name your feelings and the people in your heart, people in need of prayer, good energy, best wishes, and other help. You are welcome to pick up a stone or stones from the table, infuse or charge it with your joy or sorrow, and place it in the singing bowl, where its energy will ripple out to be held by all of us. If you'd like to verbally share something important on your heart, please come up and speak directly into the microphone. All are welcome to participate in any of these ways. We light 3 candles for the intentions that rest in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. One for the joys, one for the sorrows, and one for the strength of the gathered community that can support you and bring you peace. You are now invited to participate in the blessings of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. You may also give to UUCF online via the QR code on the back of the order of service. The morning offering shall now be gratefully received. Blessing that can be found in the order of service. To the work of creating beloved community within and beyond these walls, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
There are many different mindfulness practices and many different ways that people meditate. And this in the order of service, it just says meditation. That could be so many different things. And part of my hope is that we'll get to explore a few different types, throughout the year and coming years. That there are many ways to meditate, and this is one of many. And this will be a brief guided meditation. And I invite you to start by just taking a big breath with me. Just notice what it feels like to be in your body right now. Notice how your weight is distributed, what it feels like to have your back against the pew, your feet on the ground. Notice if there's anywhere that you feel any pain or any stress. Sometimes we like to store stress in certain places, so pay attention to your brow. Notice, like, are your brows furrowed or relaxed or raised and inquisitive? Let your attention wander, moving along the sides of your head. Imagine your temples relaxing, your cheekbones, your jaw. Take another breath and imagine your shoulders relaxing. And then the space between your shoulders. And then moving slowly down your back, through your middle back, your lower back, down into your sit bones and your upper legs, your knees, your calf muscles. Imagine your ankles relaxing and the very soles of your feet. And imagine the very tips of your toes relaxing. Take another deep breath. And remember, sometimes 30 seconds can change the whole mood of a conversation or how you're experiencing traffic on 275. So many different ways that mindfulness practices can be incorporated in our daily lives. And as we continue in this space, let us sing together our next hymn, which is number 1011, Return Again.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Are many of you familiar with Sophia Faz? Sophia Faz was an educator. She wrote over 40 books on education. She is, I sort of think of her as the patron saint of UU religious education. She was really foundational in all of the curriculum, and she did things that were remarkable in her career. Because although she passed away in 1978 at the age of 101, she was very progressive and a pioneer in a lot of ways. How many of you went to religious education as a kid? And was that like catechism-based, or was that free exploration? Yeah, me too. Catechism-based, Ask the question, what's the right answer? You get the right, you get the right answer, you get to pass the test, you get communion. Congratulations. But the whole idea of learning as exploratory, like she really emphasized that. And one of the sayings is, education is not the filling of a bucket, it's the lighting of a fire. And that quotation, by the way, is attributed to more than one person, but she's one of the people. I've tried to fact check it. If you know, let me know. But it's in line with her educational philosophy, and I think that's really beautiful and so formative that I was delighted to learn more. And when I went to Harvard Divinity School, we have not only all of the books, but we have extra archives of letters and interviews, and especially fascinating is an interview with one of her daughters. Her daughter, was asked just a nice question of, so what was it like growing up with a religious educator in the home? Like, had to have been very freeing and all of this. And she said, well, you see, Mom used to say, you can believe anything you want, just no nonsense. Okay? And for me, that feels like such a setup. It's like, here's the sense of freedom and exploration. Believe anything you want, as long as it's what I believe, or like what our family believes, or our community. And sometimes that can operate, too, in UU congregations where we say with our mouths, all are welcome here, and then we have this unspoken set of rules, as long as you vote the right way, as long as you think the same way, as long as you hold this unarticulated theology. And we really care a lot about inclusivity and care and respect and dignity and all of these things. And sometimes there's a little more theological work we can do in terms of how we name that, because I think there's a great opportunity for, let's say, the lived experience of religious education as a free and expansive thing versus it still having like a conformity that's unnamed. So what can we do with this? I think in many ways we're curious folk, and we like to know about religion in general, and not just Christianity, but look at these signs, right? Take a moment and look at the banners on the sides of the sanctuary. So many different world religions noted, and some of them we know more than others. Some of them we have negative interactions with, some of them positive interactions. And there's a guy who wrote a book a few years ago, a guy at Boston University, Prospero, wrote a book on religious literacy, saying one of the issues in our society is people are not religiously literate. They don't know that much. And where he went with it was was more Christian-focused than mainstream Unitarian Universalism. And so he's like, so therefore everybody should know Bible stories and have that be part of public discourse, but to know the stories better. And I think if we were to do a project similar to that for our circles, we might expand that to be like, let's learn about all of the religions in the same way, and also the theological frameworks. like, whether it's reading William James and the varieties of religious experience or other common models. And this service and this sermon is in service of that project. Because there's a level of irony where sometimes some of us carry a sense of woundedness or not feeling at home in other religious settings. And there's this real temptation to throw it all away and say, like, well, I don't want that. And it's really precious to find something that feels like home. And yet here we are in a church on a Sunday morning with hymnals, with ritual. But we do it in a way that feels alive and integrated and inclusive. And although I'm tempted to say more and make this preface more into a prolegomena, I need to remember that I posted a specific theme for today, which I hope will be of interest. It's on my list of theories for religious literacy in the Universalist, Unitarian, and interfaith traditions. And so we turn to stages of faith development, and we begin with a simple cartoon. Have any of you seen a Doonesbury comic? Can you picture the style in your mind? Have you ever noticed the chaplain and minister character who has the little collar? Do you know much about him? So that character is based on a college friend that the cartoonist had in college, and his name is Scotty McLennan, the inspiration for that cartoon figure. And I met Scotty McLennan in Boston when he was doing a book tour on his new book called Finding Your Religion. Now, a fun thing about Scotty McLennan is he is an ordained Unitarian minister. And he was inspired by the idea of faith development and stages of faith. And so he wrote a book that's a kind of a more popular, accessible version of some earlier research done by James Fowler. And so if I'm going to try to map this out, I'm sometimes visual, and I really wanted to bring like an old school flip chart with one of those pointers that do that. But there was a child psychologist by the name of Piaget. And Piaget investigated things like how do little minds develop and what are predictable stages. And we notice this in children too. There's some predictable stages of whether it's object permanence or what's really true versus not true, or what's, all of those things. So Piaget's here. James Fowler came along later, and James Fowler said, hey, that's really interesting stuff. What if we apply those same ideas to theology and how we experience religion? Whether God is real or not, whether the mythical realm is here with us, or like, what does that look like if we do that? And then Scotty McLennan looks back on both of those and says, how do we tweak Fowler's stages of religious development so that they're relevant in today's public discourse? Because one of the big things, and this is I can't emphasize this part enough, Fowler presents the stages as very sequential. And sometimes when we think things are very linear, and they're not, we can cause harm. And so what Scotty McLennan says is, hey, there are some predictable stages with children, but as adults, we carry all of those different modalities in us. And so let's not get into this judgy hierarchy game of saying, well, you're a stage 5 and I'm a stage 3, so I'm more advanced as a person. It doesn't work like that. It's all egalitarian. And that's a thing that Scotty McLennan articulates that James Fowler does not. And we see this in other models too, such as the stages of grieving, where there are predictable phases of grieving, but is it sequential and like you have to graduate from one before you move to the other? It doesn't work like that. And the people who critique that model as being linear are right, that it's not linear that way. But if they say, therefore, there's no truth in it, that's not quite right either. So let's keep that in mind as we move to some of the stages. I'll give you a real snapshot of Fowler's stages, and then we'll move from there. It's a lot to go through, but I'm hoping that some of it will resonate. And he starts by articulating a pre-stage, or for those of you who like to start counting with the number 0 instead of 1, this is that first one. Or that, I don't know if you even call it the first one if it's labeled 0, but it starts with undifferentiated faith. Generally, children from birth through about 2 years of age, they have the potential for faith but lack the ability to act on that potential. Through loving care from parents and other adults in their life, young children start to build a lived experience of trust, courage, hope, and love. At this stage, children experience faith as a connection between themselves and their caregivers. Brief snapshot of the very first starting place. Then we move to stage 1, or stage 2. Generally, preschool age children. The cognitive development of children of this age is such that they are unable to think abstractly and are generally unable to see this world from anyone else's perspective. As Robert Keeley writes, these children cannot think like a scientist, consider logical arguments, or think through complex ideas, end quote. Now, faith is not a thought-out set of ideas, but instead a set of impressions that are largely gained from their parents or other significant adults in their lives. In this way, children become involved with the rituals of their religious community by experiencing them and learning from those around them. Notions like an all-powerful God develop if in a family where that's part of the religious context. There might be questions like, is your world full of spirits and demons? Are fairy tales your favorite kind of literature? Do you think God makes everything happen for good or bad? And then moving on to the next stage, which would be generally ages 6 to 12, children at this age are able to start to work out the difference between verified facts and things that might be more like fantasy or speculation. At this age, children's sources of religious authority starts to expand past parents and trusted adults to others in the community, like teachers and friends. And like the previous stage, faith is something to be experienced. At this stage, it is because children think in concrete and literal ways, and faith becomes the stories told and the rituals practiced. Later on in this stage, still within it though, children begin to have the capacity to understand that others might have different beliefs than them, that there might be a cause and effect relationship with the divine. And some questions here might be, do you spend a lot of time trying to determine what's real and what's not? Are scriptures true in a concrete and literal sense, rather than being stories and maxims that may or may not be real? And do you feel like you can influence God's actions by being good? The next stage, stage 3, or stage 4, generally starts about the age of 13 and goes until around 18. However, some people stay at this stage for their entire life. And again, this isn't like, some of this language even sounds judgy, but it's not meant to be in that way. Unlike previous stages, people at this stage are able to think abstractly. What were once simple, unrelated stories and rituals can now be seen as a more cohesive narrative about values and morals. With abstract thinking comes the ability to see layers of meaning in the stories, rituals, and symbols of their faith. At this stage, people start to have the ability to see things from someone else's perspective. This means they can also imagine what other people think and feel about their faith. People at this stage claim their faith as their own instead of just being what their family does. However, the faith that is claimed is usually still the faith of their family. Issues of religious authority are important to people at this age. For younger adolescents, that authority still resides mostly with their parents and important adults. For older adolescents and adults in this stage, authority resides with friends and religious community. For all people in this stage, religious authority resides mostly outside of them personally. They haven't claimed it fully integrated into their self. Some questions in this stage are, do you have a very important peer group or leader who is primarily responsible for shaping your faith? Is it important to you to understand and follow religious doctrine and moral rules? Is your main image of God that of a perfect parent? Moving to the next stage, which, at this point, like Fowler articulates it as usually between 18 and 22 years old, but this is somewhat arbitrary. Robert Keeley points out that, quote, people of many generations experience the kind of dissonance that comes with the real questions of faith that one begins to address at this stage of development, end quote. People in this stage start to question their own assumptions around faith and religion just in general. Along with questioning their own assumptions about their faith, people start to question the authority structures that are connected to their religious experience. This is often the time that someone will leave their religious community if the answers to the questions they are asking are not to their liking. Greater maturity is gained by rejecting some parts of their faith while affirming other parts. In the end, the person starts to take greater ownership of their own faith journey. Sometimes this leads to the idea of a distant God or atheism as a way of stepping away. And some questions related to this are, is your spiritual life unique and personal? Do you often find yourself wanting to demystify Scripture? Do you think of God or ultimate reality as primarily impersonal force or spirit, or as non-existent altogether? The next stage is called interdependence or conjunctive faith. And here, people do not usually, I hesitate to share, I don't know how much to share of some of the authors and theories versus like how I tweak it to make it even better in the world of Eric. Because some of the language around this too is still saying people do not usually get to this stage until their early 30s. I don't know. Or ever. Or maybe it's not the right one. I don't know. But this stage is when the struggles and questioning of the previous stages give way to a more comfortable place. Some answers have been found, and the person at this stage is comfortable knowing that all the answers might not easily be found. In this stage, the strong need for individual self-reflection gives way to a sense of the importance of the community in faith development. People in this stage are also more open to other people's faith perspectives. This is not because they are moving away from their faith, but because they have a realization that the other people's faiths might inform and deepen their own rather than threaten them. One can hold a greater notion of a paradoxical God, that not everything needs to be literally true and cohesive. And some questions related to this stage are, do you find a spiritual community important to you at the same time you maintain your own distinctive faith? Do you experience spiritual power in religious symbols and myths that you can also analyze objectively? Do you conceive of God or ultimate reality both as a person and as an impersonal force? Are you seeing any of your own lives in any of these? A little bit, some nods, yeah. And stage 6 or stage 7 is called unity. or universalizing faith. And in the eyes of Fowler, it's kind of rare. Like it's not like the population is evenly distributed between these different trajectories. He describes the sense of unity as being rare for people to have this perspective, and he describes it as having a, quote, special grace that makes them seem more lucid, more simple, and yet somehow more fully human than the rest of us, end quote. More human than others, come on. James Fowler, if he were here, I'd be like, come on. But perhaps still rare, perhaps still like on the bell curve, not mainstream. And at the same time, have you encountered anybody who had those qualities? And you're like, oh, that's a good person. Like that's a good soul in the room. People at this stage can become important religious teachers because they have the ability to relate to anyone at any stage and from any faith. They are able to relate without condescension, but at the same time are able to challenge the assumptions that those of other stages might have. People at this stage cherish life, but also do not hold on to life too tightly. They put their faith into action, challenging the status quo, and working to create justice in the world. Authors like Robert Keeley point to people like Gandhi and Mother Teresa as examples of people who have reached this stage. In this perspective, it's often a little mystical leaning, like seeing an all-pervasive God, leaning towards pantheism. And some questions related to this are, do you sense yourself in community with religiously committed people of any and all traditions? I mean, do you feel that affinity for people in different communities? Is your consciousness ego-free and beyond paradox and ambiguity? Which, by the way, Gandhi never had. Like that sense of lack of contradiction. Like if you read his autobiography, he's not free from that. But another question is, do you often feel that God or divine spirit is in everything and that everything exists in God or divine spirit? And I'm going to close with a challenge and a story. The challenge is that I sometimes see people reflect on their own religious tradition or one that they have an antagonism towards and frame it in terms of an earlier stage. Like, so a very concrete example is if a person, or me, grows up in a Christian church where you learn a kind of literalism, and that to really believe, you have to believe it literally. And then if you reject that religion based on it needing to be literal, because the literal part doesn't make sense, and then you find a different religion, let's say Hinduism or pagan, it could be any other tradition, and you say, oh, this one feels more free because it's not literal. It's like really, it's kind of an unfair comparison. Like I feel like you should compare the literal versus the literal if you're going to even be doing that exercise, or already from the intersubjective view or from the unity phase, like compare if you're doing that comparison within the same stage. Does that make sense? Because I think it's easy to demonize or to point to other religions as saying like, well, they're doing it wrong, but then you're using a kind of unfair or less generous overall reading of it. And I'll give a concrete example, too, of one of the possibilities of this kind of faith and what this kind of reflection would do. And it comes from, this passage is from the book that Scotty McLennan wrote, which is called Finding Your Religion. And I offer this story. That wasn't the way Peter McKell learned about religion growing up in the Soviet Union. All he knew was that, quote, religion is unintelligible, end quote. Peter is now a 32-year-old engineer working in Germany. I first met him when he was a graduate student at Tufts. His parents never went to church in Moscow, and they claimed Jesus never existed, much less God. His maternal grandfather was brought up a Jew but abandoned religion by the time he was 20. In elementary school, this was the message Peter received. Science gives you all the answers except the moral ones. There, the Communist Party fills in and tells you how people should behave. It was hard for him to understand how anyone could believe, quote, fairy tales, end quote, like there being some guy with a beard who will send you to a place called heaven or hell. When Peter was 16, his parents took him for a boat trip along the Volga River. A major incident sticks in his mind from those 3 days on the water. It occurred on the third night as he was sitting out under the stars on the upper deck. No one was around. Everything was quiet, very quiet, except for the gentle slapping of small waves against the bow. For at least an hour, he sat alone, deeply breathing in the night air and feeling a slight chill that made his spine tingle. Hills he described as very boring, with nothing growing on them, were slowly slipping by as the boat moved upstream. He kept staring at them, lost in thought. Suddenly, as he puts it, he lost all sense of personal boundaries and merged into the hills. Peter immediately had a clear sense that he and those hills were made of the same stuff. At that moment, he had absolutely no doubt of this truth. We're both part of each other. There's no essential difference between myself and nature, even inanimate nature. It's quite natural to go to the hills, lie down with them, and become one with them. It makes no difference whether I'm inside the hills or on top of them. And Peter isn't sure how long this feeling lasted, maybe only a few minutes. All he knows now is that it was a very powerful event. These days, he describes what happened as a mystical experience. When he came back to everyday reality, his rational mind saw that the whole world has a logic beyond it that's manifested equally in nature and in human beings. As a scientist, he could have cited Einstein's E equals mc squared. Peter came to call it God. He saw it as a kind of energy that included everything within it, from the hills to the stars to himself to the boat he was traveling on. Later, when he learned about pantheism, the doctrine that everything is part of God and God present in all things, he began to apply the pantheist label to himself. What happened that night, as Peter looks back, was that he opened all of his senses, breathed in the night air, felt the coolness against his skin, listened to the wavelets gurgling at the bow, and watched the hills as they passed by. That was his part. He did it for a long time. Then something far outside of himself, or possibly deep within himself, did the rest, for which he takes no credit and has no satisfactory explanation. Yet, from that night on, religion no longer was unintelligible. May we, as we go forth in our religious explorations in our personal lives and as a community, do so with curiosity and openness, and we don't need to agree with things to be on that journey together and be a little less unintelligible. May we make that so. Amen. As willing and able, in singing our closing hymn, We'll Build a Land, number 121.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free. With the oil of gladness
be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space, its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth, its ritual, works of love, and its profession of faith, divine living. Go in peace, dear friends, go in peace.